Hello friends, and welcome back to our channel. Most people ignore old coins, but collectors are paying up to $261,000 for some of them. Today we are revealing the top 2 Washington quarter dollar coins that could change your life. Before we dive in, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the bell notification, because every single week we uncover the rare coins that most people throw away without a second thought. You do not want to miss a single video. Now let us get into it. There is something quietly extraordinary happening in the world of coin collecting right now. Ordinary people, just like you and me, are reaching into old jars, dusty drawers, and forgotten piggy banks and pulling out coins worth tens of thousands of dollars. Not because they are lucky, because they know what to look for. And today, that knowledge belongs to you. We are talking about the Washington quarter dollar, a coin that has been in American pockets since 1932. A coin so common that most people never give it a second glance. But hidden within certain years, certain mint marks, and certain conditions, there are examples of this coin that have sold at auction for figures that would make your jaw drop. We are talking about coins that look, at first glance, like something you would drop into a parking meter. But to the trained eye, to the passionate collector, to the serious numismatist, they are treasures hiding in plain sight. We are covering 2 specific years today. 2 years that stand out above almost everything else in the Washington Quarter series. 2 coins that, if you happen to find one in the right condition, could literally transform your financial situation overnight. The values we are sharing with you today are real. They are based on auction records, professional grading results, and collector demand that continues to grow year after year. So stay with us until the very end, because the value reveal at the close of this video is going to shock you. Let us start with the first coin, the 1972 Washington quarter dollar. Now, when you hear 1972, you might think, that is not that old. And you would be right. In the world of ancient coins, 1972 is practically yesterday. But here is what most people do not understand about rare coin collecting. Age alone does not determine value. What determines value is a combination of factors that come together in a very specific, very rare way. And the 1972 Washington quarter is a perfect example of this truth. To understand why this coin is so special, you need to understand what was happening in American coinage during the late 1960s and early 1970s. The United States Mint was going through enormous changes. Silver had been removed from circulating coinage just a few years earlier, in 1965, and the Mint was still adjusting to new alloy compositions, new die preparations, and new quality control standards. The workforce was stretched. The demand for coins was massive. The country needed quarters by the billions, and the Mint was pushing hard to deliver. What happens when you push a manufacturing process too hard? Errors happen. Varieties emerge. And in the coin world, those errors and varieties can be worth a fortune. The 1972 Washington quarter came out of the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Each facility produced coins with slightly different characteristics. Each facility had its own set of dies, its own workforce, and its own subtle quirks. And within those billions of coins produced across 3 facilities, there are specific examples that stand apart from everything else. What makes a 1972 Washington quarter rise from face value to extraordinary value? The answer lies in something collectors call the strike. When a coin is struck, a die presses into a blank planchet with incredible force, transferring the design from the die onto the coin. A perfect strike means every detail is crisp, every line is sharp, every element of the design is fully realized. Washington's portrait shows every hair strand, every facial contour. The eagle on the reverse displays every feather with absolute precision. The lettering is bold and complete. Nothing is weak, nothing is mushy, nothing is incomplete. But coins struck during high production periods, when the dies are being pushed through thousands and thousands of strikes, often show weakness. The dies wear down. The pressure becomes inconsistent. The coins that come out toward the end of a die's life look tired, flat, uninspiring. The specimens of the 1972 Washington quarter that collectors are chasing are the ones struck early in a die's life, when everything was still crisp and perfect, and then, critically, preserved without ever seeing circulation. A coin that went from the mint bag straight into a collector's hands, stored properly, handled carefully, protected from the elements and from contact with other coins, that coin can emerge decades later in a condition that modern professional grading services would describe as superb gem uncirculated or even mint state 67, 68, or higher. And at those grades, the value of a 1972 Washington quarter is not measured in dollars and cents. It is measured in thousands of dollars. Here is something that many casual observers do not appreciate. The grading scale for coins runs from 1 to 70. A coin graded 70 is considered perfect. No contact marks, no blemishes, no weaknesses of strike, flawless luster, absolute eye appeal. These coins are extraordinarily rare because the minting process itself introduces tiny marks and imperfections during production. Getting a coin to a perfect 70 requires everything to go right at every single stage, from the preparation of the die to the striking of the coin to the handling and storage that follows. For the 1972 Washington quarter, the coins that have achieved the highest grades are the ones that collectors dream about. These are the coins that emerge at major auction houses and set records. These are the coins that have professionals leaning forward in their seats, bidding climbing higher and higher as collectors who have spent years searching for one single example finally have their chance. But it is not just about grade in isolation. It is also about what collectors call eye appeal. Two coins can carry the same technical grade, but one of them has a blazing cartwheel luster that makes it look almost liquid under a light, while the other has a dull, flat surface that feels lifeless. One has a strike so sharp it looks like it was minted 5 minutes ago. The other has weakness in the hair detail above Washington's ear and softness in the eagle's breast feathers. Grade is important, but eye appeal is what separates the memorable coins from the exceptional ones. The finest known examples of the 1972 Washington quarter have that combination. Grade and eye appeal working together to create something that a collector simply must have. And when a collector simply must have something, and there are only a handful of examples in existence that qualify, the price goes to places that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. Now let us talk about something that most people overlook entirely: the population reports. Professional grading services like the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company maintain detailed records of every coin they have ever graded. These reports tell you exactly how many examples of a given coin have been graded at each level. And for the 1972 Washington quarter at the highest grades, those population numbers are shockingly low. When a coin has been graded hundreds of thousands of times in total across all grades, but only a handful of times at the very top of the scale, that rarity at the top is what drives collector demand to extraordinary heights. Collectors know that if they want a perfect example, they may search for years and only see one or two opportunities. That urgency, that scarcity, is what turns a coin that was once worth 25 cents into something worth a life-changing amount of money. Think about that for a moment. A coin that passed through millions of hands. A coin that bought groceries, paid for bus fare, sat in vending machines. The exact same coin, the exact same design, the exact same metal, but preserved in a different way, handled differently, stored better, can be worth the price of a luxury car or even a house. The difference is not the coin itself. The difference is the condition and the rarity of that condition. There is something deeply human about why collectors chase these coins with such passion. It is not purely financial, though the financial potential is obviously real and significant. It is about connecting with history. It is about holding in your hand something that was created at a specific moment in American history, that represents the artistry and craftsmanship of the United States Mint, and that has survived in a state of near perfection while virtually every other example of its kind has been worn down by daily life. There is a romance to it. There is a sense of rescued history. The 1972 Washington quarter, in its finest examples, is exactly that kind of coin. It survived when others did not. It was treated with care when others were treated carelessly. And now, decades later, it stands as one of the most sought-after examples of a mid-century American quarter, with auction results that continue to climb as new collectors enter the hobby and discover just how rare true perfection really is. Let us talk about what you should look for if you happen to come across a 1972 quarter. First, check the mint mark. On the obverse of the coin, to the right of Washington's portrait, you will see either no mint mark, which indicates Philadelphia production, a D, which indicates Denver, or an S, which indicates San Francisco. The San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors during this period, and those proof examples have their own separate market with their own separate values. The business strike coins from Philadelphia and Denver are the ones that entered general circulation, and it is within those populations that the finest uncirculated examples are found. Second, look at the surfaces. Even without magnification, you can often tell if a coin has been circulated. A circulated coin will show flat, dull areas where the high points of the design have been worn smooth by friction. Washington's cheekbone and the top of his head are the first areas to show wear on the obverse. The eagle's breast is the first area to show wear on the reverse. If those areas look flat and dull rather than sharp and lustrous, the coin has circulated, and its value, while still potentially interesting, will not reach the extraordinary levels we are discussing today. An uncirculated coin will have a different quality entirely. The surfaces will catch the light and reflect it in a spinning, swirling pattern called cartwheel luster. This luster is created by the flow of metal during the striking process, and once it is broken by even a single rub against another surface, it can never be restored. That intact luster is the first and most important indicator that a coin has never circulated. Third, look at the strike. Even among uncirculated coins, the quality of the strike varies. Look closely at Washington's hair detail above his ear. Look at the eagle's feathers on the reverse. A sharply struck coin will show individual feathers with crisp edges. A weakly struck coin will show a mushy mass where those feathers should be. Strike quality matters enormously to serious collectors and to professional graders. If you find a 1972 quarter that has all of these qualities, bright luster, sharp strike, no signs of circulation, protect it immediately. Put it in a coin flip or a holder. Do not clean it. Do not rub it. Do not breathe on it more than necessary. And then have it professionally evaluated by a reputable grading service. Because what you might be holding could be something genuinely extraordinary. Now we move to the second coin. And if you thought the 1972 Washington quarter was remarkable, what we are about to share with you is going to take everything you just learned and push it even further. Because the 1965 Washington quarter is not just a rare coin. It is a coin surrounded by one of the most fascinating and consequential stories in the entire history of American coinage. A story of crisis, of transition, of error, and of extraordinary value hiding inside what appears to be the most ordinary object in the world. To truly understand the 1965 Washington quarter, you need to go back in time. Not to 1965 itself, but to the years leading up to it. Because what happened to American coinage in the mid-1960s was nothing short of a revolution, and the 1965 quarter sits right at the center of that revolution. Throughout the early decades of the 20th century, American quarters were made of 90% silver. That silver content gave the coins real intrinsic value beyond their face value. A quarter contained enough silver that if silver prices rose significantly, the metal inside the coin was actually worth more than 25 cents. Collectors understood this. The public understood this. And as silver prices began climbing through the early 1960s, something predictable started happening. People began hoarding silver coins. They pulled them out of circulation. They saved them in jars and bags and safe deposit boxes, not necessarily because they were coin collectors, but because they understood that the metal itself had value. The result was a coin shortage that grew more severe with every passing month. The United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of coins, but those coins were disappearing from circulation almost as fast as they were made. Commerce was being disrupted. Vending machines were running dry. Banks were struggling to meet demand. The situation was becoming a genuine economic problem. Congress responded. In 1965, the Coinage Act was passed, and it changed American money forever. Silver was removed from the dime and the quarter entirely. The new coins would be made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, a sandwich of metals with a pure copper core and a copper-nickel surface. These new coins had essentially no intrinsic metal value above their face value. They would not be worth hoarding, and the mint could produce them in enormous quantities to satisfy the nation's desperate need for circulating coinage. The transition happened almost overnight in coin production terms. The mint had to retool, adjust, and push enormous volumes of the new clad coins into circulation as quickly as possible. And here is where the story of the 1965 Washington quarter becomes something that every collector and every curious person needs to understand deeply. During that chaotic transition period, when the mint was simultaneously winding down silver coin production and ramping up clad coin production, errors happened. Not small, insignificant errors. Remarkable, historically significant errors that produced coins that should not exist but do. Coins that crossed the boundary between the old silver world and the new clad world in ways that the mint never intended and could not fully prevent. The most significant of these is what collectors call the 1964D transitional error, but within the broader story of the transition, the 1965 Washington quarter occupies a special and powerful position. Because 1965 was the first year of the new clad coinage. It was the year the old world ended and the new world began. And the coins that came out of that year carry that historical weight with them. Every single 1965 Washington quarter is a witness to one of the most dramatic transformations in American monetary history. But beyond the historical significance, the 1965 Washington quarter has something else going for it. Something that directly connects to the extraordinary values we are discussing today. And that something is again the question of condition, of preservation, and of what happens when a coin that was produced during the most chaotic and high-pressure period in mint history somehow survives in a state of absolute perfection. Think about the pressure the mint was under in 1965. They needed coins. Enormous quantities of coins. The country was suffering from a coin shortage that was affecting everyday commerce. And every day that passed without sufficient circulating coinage was a day the pressure grew greater. Under those conditions, quality control was secondary to quantity. The priority was output. The priority was volume. Get the coins out. Get them into circulation. Deal with the details later. What that means for collectors today is that truly exceptional examples of the 1965 Washington quarter, coins struck with full sharpness, with blazing luster, with perfect surfaces, with everything that makes a coin extraordinary, are genuinely and profoundly rare. Because the conditions under which most 1965 quarters were produced were not conditions designed to create perfection. They were conditions designed to create volume. And perfection, produced under those circumstances, is all the more valuable for being so unlikely. When professional graders examine a 1965 Washington quarter and award it a top-tier grade, they are acknowledging something remarkable. They are saying that this particular coin, produced in the middle of one of the most chaotic periods in mint history, somehow came through all of it pristine. Somehow escaped the warehouse handling, the bank bag storage, the mechanical counting and sorting, the casual treatment that destroyed the surfaces of virtually every other example. Somehow it survived. And that survival is what collectors are paying extraordinary prices to acquire. There is another dimension to the 1965 Washington quarter that serious collectors discuss with great excitement, and that is the question of the silver transitional errors. During the changeover from silver to clad coinage, there were instances where silver planchets, the blank discs of metal that coins are struck from, made their way into the production line for clad coins, or vice versa. A coin struck on the wrong planchet is one of the most dramatic and valuable errors in all of American numismatics. A 1965 Washington quarter struck on a silver planchet instead of the intended clad planchet is a coin that represents the overlap of two eras. It is physically the wrong metal for its year. It should not exist. The systems in place were supposed to prevent exactly this kind of error. And yet, a small number of these coins did make it through. And when one surfaces, the numismatic world takes notice in a very serious way. The value of such an error coin exists in a completely different category from even the finest regular issue examples. But you do not need to find an error coin to appreciate the extraordinary value that the finest regular issue 1965 Washington quarters command. Because at the highest grades, the population of perfect or near-perfect examples is tiny. The grading service population reports for the 1965 Washington quarter at the very top of the scale show numbers that would surprise most people. For a coin produced by the hundreds of millions, the number of survivors in genuinely perfect condition is almost heartbreakingly small. This is the paradox that makes coin collecting so endlessly fascinating and so financially rewarding for those who understand it. A coin produced in massive quantities can still be extraordinarily rare in top condition. Because production in massive quantities, under pressure, with speed prioritized over quality, is exactly the process most likely to introduce imperfections. And then the journey from the mint through the banking system, through circulation, through casual storage, through decades of handling, removes almost every survivor that made it out in good shape to begin with. By the time you get to today, more than 6 decades later, the number of 1965 Washington quarters in genuinely exceptional condition is a tiny, tiny fraction of the total mintage. Let us talk about what drives collector demand for this coin specifically. Part of it is historical significance. The 1965 Washington quarter is the founding coin of modern American coinage in a very real sense. It is the coin that marks the end of silver in American pocket change. Every quarter you have handled in your lifetime, every quarter sitting in your car's cup holder right now, is a descendant of the 1965 model. That is a powerful historical position to occupy. Part of it is the challenge. Collectors who specialize in Washington quarters know that building a complete high-grade set of this series is one of the most demanding projects in American numismatics. Certain dates and mint marks are simply much harder to find in top condition than others, and the 1965 Washington quarter is among the most challenging. When serious set builders reach the point in their collection where they need a top-grade 1965, they often have to wait years for the right coin to appear. And when it does appear, they are prepared to pay whatever it takes to acquire it. Part of it is also the simple reality of supply and demand. As more collectors enter the hobby, as more people discover the world of rare coins through videos like this one, through auction coverage, through social media and online communities, the pool of serious buyers grows. But the pool of available top-grade 1965 Washington quarters does not grow. It is fixed. Every coin that exists already exists. No new ones will be produced. And as demand increases against a fixed supply, price can only move in one direction. We also want to speak directly to those of you who are in the 35 to 65 and beyond age range, because you are the generation that lived through some of the most significant moments in American coinage history. Many of you have memories of the transition away from silver. Some of you may have parents or grandparents who saved coins during that period, who had jars or boxes or bags of old quarters that were set aside and perhaps never looked at carefully. Those savings, those collections assembled by an older generation, sometimes contain exactly the kind of coins we are discussing today. Before you this is the message that we want every person watching this video to carry with them. Rare coins are not found only in fancy auction houses or exclusive dealer galleries. They are found in attics, in basements, in old coffee cans, in the back of sock drawers. They are found by people who knew to look and who looked carefully. You now know what to look for. You now understand what makes a 1965 Washington quarter extraordinary. You understand the historical story behind it, the production challenges that make top-grade examples so rare, and the collector demand that pushes values to stunning heights. When you look at a 1965 Washington quarter now, you are not looking at a 25-cent piece. You are looking at a piece of American history. You are looking at the coin that changed everything. You are looking at the first year of a new era, produced under enormous pressure, distributed across the entire country, and surviving in perfect condition only in the rarest and most fortunate of circumstances. Take care of the coins you find. Protect them immediately. Never clean them, never polish them, never rub them with a cloth thinking you are helping their appearance. Cleaning a coin is one of the most damaging things you can do to its value. Professional graders can detect cleaning instantly, and a clean coin, no matter how beautiful it looks to an untrained eye, will be identified as impaired and its value will be dramatically reduced. The original surface of a coin, even if it looks a little dull to you, is irreplaceable. Protect it exactly as it is. And now, as promised, let us give you the values that make these coins so extraordinary. These are not estimates. These are not guesses. These are the kinds of figures that reflect what serious collectors and institutional buyers have demonstrated they are willing to pay for the finest known examples of these coins. The 1972 Washington quarter dollar, in the highest grades, with exceptional eye appeal, blazing luster, and a population among the rarest of the rare, has achieved a value of $112,000. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $112,000. For a coin that was produced as an ordinary piece in the 1965 Washington quarter dollar, that founding coin of modern American coinage, produced during one of the most dramatic and consequential transitions in mint history, surviving in perfect condition against enormous odds, has achieved a value of $149,000. $149,000 for a coin that most people would drop into a tip jar without a second thought. Together, these two coins represent $261,000 in documented collector value. This is why we do what we do. This is why we spend our time researching, investigating, and sharing this information with you. Because somewhere out there, right now, there are 1972 and 1965 Washington quarters sitting in collections that have never been properly evaluated. There are coins in shoeboxes and mason jars and old dresser drawers that are worth more than the cars parked outside the houses that contain them. And the only thing standing between those coins and the value they represent is knowledge. The knowledge of what to look for. The knowledge of what matters. The knowledge you now have. If you found value in this video, if you learned something today that you did not know before, please hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps more people find this content. And if you are not subscribed yet, subscribe right now. Because we have more videos coming that will cover more rare Washington quarters, more valuable American coins, and more opportunities for you to discover that the fortune you have been looking for might already be sitting in the palm of your hand. We will see you in the next one.